What is going on? Welcome back. How are we all doing? Chelsea are playing Brighton away at the Amex. At the Amex. I can't even say that word. Chelsea are playing Brighton at the Amex. Wow, what's going on? Anyway, Chelsea are in Brighton this evening playing Brighton and Hove Albion. It's going to be a tough game. The race for Europe is on properly now, with the Europa League in sight. Amazingly, like I've said for so many weeks, I cannot believe Chelsea are fighting for Europa League football. Big up Bush, big up Dan Knight. Do you see Newcastle dropping points tonight is the question that's first coming in. I'll be honest with you, no, I don't. I don't see a serious side dropping points in their quest for Europe. The same with Man United. I don't think either of these teams want to drop point. But my gosh, we need that Newcastle loss tonight, don't we? We really do. Yeah, guys, if we can smash the likes and get it up to 20, 25 likes today on the live, and if you're watching it afterwards as well, that would be fantastic. We seem to be hitting that on the videos recently, so let's keep that trend continuing. People are saying Arsenal are bottlers. Obviously, Arsenal definitely have slipped up on their quest for the Premier League this season. I think back to Fulham, where they were against a 10-men Fulham side. They didn't manage to hold on to a lead. They obviously gave the lead away cheaply as well, like the first minute into that game. Bush says he'd love a Newcastle 3-pointer. Wouldn't we all if... Wait, a Newcastle 3-pointer or a Man United 3-pointer? Wait, hang on a minute. I might have got that one round the wrong way. I think Manchester United need to win. Is that not what we mean? Because for me, I looked at the standings and felt like a Man United win would be better because they're so far behind. Because we can't catch Spurs. Really? Oh, I see. Yes, right, exactly. Dan Knight says he thinks Chelsea will finish 7th because of Newcastle goal difference. I think the Conference League. Look, there's potential. There is potential there that Newcastle could potentially stay ahead of Chelsea for that reason. We need United to turn up tonight, don't we? We really, really do. But all Chelsea can do is win their final fixtures. Look, Newcastle have got a fairly okay end to the season, haven't they? And a failing United side, a side that may or may not have abandoned their manager and what he believes they should do and what's best for them. And a Brentford team who, look, they're not going up or down. They could well be on holiday. You just don't know, to be honest with you. But nevertheless, let's get into it. I'm previewing the game tonight. It's going to be really tricky. I can't say the stadium, which is ridiculous. It's the Amex. I've got it out that time. There you go. But yeah, look, people are saying they don't see Manchester United turning up. And I don't blame them for saying that, because what have we seen as football fans this whole season or half the season in terms of Manchester United and turning up? The only thing is that they do have an FA Cup final around the corner. And for me, if I was the manager or the players, I wouldn't want to go into that just losing games for fun. And I actually felt like the game against Arsenal, I didn't think they were that bad. I know I might be exaggerating things here, but I really didn't. Dan Knight says Gusto should play tonight. We'll get into my team preview and who I think is potentially going to be playing and in the team. Obviously, I don't want to see too many changes. Yeah, Gusto was very good and he might be fitter than Reece James. Bush says, Dan, are you going to the game? I'm not tonight, but more than likely I'll be there for the Bournemouth game because I need to say bye to my man, Thiago Silva. Of course I do. I think Manchester City will beat Manchester United and Chelsea get Conference League. Manchester City haven't got to play Manchester United, have they? United should be pumped, otherwise they can risk 9th, 10th finish. They definitely risk it if Chelsea lose to Brighton. That's for sure. They definitely do. Brighton, what can Brighton get? 51, 54. Okay, so Brighton could potentially finish level, but if they were to win both their games, their goal difference may in fact be better. Oh, I see what you mean, Dan. I see what you mean. Chelsea Blue, I hear that. Big up to you as well. Thanks for joining in. Love to see new fans in the building more and more. Of course we do. We're building something over here. I'm telling you that much. It's sensible football opinions on this channel and good speaking, good talk about Chelsea, and it's good speaking to everyone as well. I don't disagree. I think those Burnley and Sheffield results and the draw at Brentford and the Wolves game on Christmas Eve, look, they're big slip-ups from Chelsea. Shiv says, do you believe we can get fifth? Well, look, maybe I do. I think fifth might be a bit of a push if we're being realistic because of our goal difference situation. And the fact that Tottenham obviously didn't win last night, but you know, one more game to go. Who have they got? They've got Sheffield United. Like, they're not going to lose to Sheffield United, are they, to be fair? So that's probably out of sight for us, but you don't know with this Tottenham team. There's obviously a big issue between Ange and the Tottenham fan base and the club. So you never know. They could lose. All Chelsea have to do is win both their games. It's as simple as that, and that's been tough for us, but we're going to get into it because Chelsea have put together a little bit of a run. And if you look at the Aston Villa game, where we probably should have won that, and because of a farce from the referee, let's be real, we obviously didn't, but our first half wasn't good enough, so it's a draw. But if we have a look at the team that we've had out recently, which has pretty much been this with a couple of changes here and there, this is kind of what I want to see tonight. And I think we've got every chance of potentially getting a result against Brighton. But some of you may have seen there, I've made a couple of changes to what we saw against Nottingham Forest. What I'm going to say is that against Nottingham Forest, for the first 60, 65 minutes, Chelsea weren't great. I think the Cucurella experiment didn't really work. I think Nuno kind of identified that and made it very, very difficult for him. I feel like Forest were better. Chelsea were lacking possession. I think the atmosphere, I was there, the atmosphere at Nottingham Forest Stadium is easily one of the best I've seen in the Premier League and not even lying, in Europe for a long time. They were top notch. I've already told a couple of Forest fans fair play. I've watched a couple of vlogs from their side of things. They were exceptional. If you've watched my vlog as well, you would have heard it. You definitely would have. And if you haven't, make sure to check it out. Smash the likes on this, guys. We're trying to get up to 25 likes on this live and on the views afterwards in the preview to Chelsea versus Brighton this evening. And make sure to subscribe because we are on the road to 2,500 subscribers, which is crazy. We're going to preview all Chelsea and Brighton and everything coming up this evening, and then we'll get on to chatting about Arsenal, Spurs, City, and all of that sort of stuff. So if you've got questions about that, save it for after the preview. But if we're looking at tonight, Chelsea absolutely have to win, like I've already said. I think we were slightly lacking for the first sort of hour, apart from a little bit of magic from Cole Palmer and a lovely finish from Mudryk. Nothing else really happened until Poch made some very key substitutions. Hence why, if we look at the team, I'm sort of predicting to start tonight, the only real changes I'm making are Gusto at right back, because I feel like it might be time for Badiashile to step aside again. He's been okay in recent weeks, but I still think our best defence is Thiago Silva and Chalobah. I don't feel either of them have done too much wrong, even though, look, Trev did struggle a little bit against Forest. I just think he's better off being central. Gusto, we know how good he's been for us this season. Arguably, Gusto being that good has made us not miss Reece James. And I've also said that I think Sterling should come in over Mudryk. And the reason for that is, and I know some of you aren't going to like that because you're massive Mudryk stans. I understand that. And look, Mudryk scored a good goal. However, I felt like what Sterling did in the time that he was on the pitch, for me, was a lot more impactful than what I saw Mudryk do for the hour that he was on the pitch. And that kind of disappointed me from Mudryk because I felt like he scored that goal with such ease and the type of run that he made was exceptional. But whether it was to do with Chelsea not really looking for Mudryk because we focus a lot of our play down the right, or whether or not it was the fact that when Mudryk had other opportunities to create or try and make the right type of run to open it up for players like Cole Palmer to find him, it just didn't really come and it didn't really happen for me. So I felt like the way Mudryk started didn't really continue on into the game. And I feel like for a while, Mudryk, he's not quite done what I expected him to do, to be honest with you. And for that reason, I felt like I saw more from Sterling. So I'm saying Sterling. Is it likely, though, that Sterling starts? Probably not. But if it was me, I'd be happy to see Sterling start. I thought he was very, very good. And I think if Sterling had played as many games as Mudryk has and the games Sterling played, I think Sterling would be in double figures this season. I really do. I think if there wasn't the battle between Sterling and Mudryk this season, or injuries and availability, I think Sterling would be in a better position. Stitch is here from Footy Judge Mo. Good to see you, Stitch. Obviously, I made my debut on Footy Judge Mo, and John saying Sterling is best off the bench. Good to have you here, John, as well. Look, the other player for me that made a real good impact, didn't score, but I felt like he was very good. And you can see his level, and there's been a couple of videos in training, is Nkunku. Now, the thing for me with Nkunku is I think he's going to be so key to next season. And for that reason, I don't want any extra minutes that are excessive. The same with Reece James. I just don't want to see these players getting injured. And if it means that Nkunku can play 20, 30 minutes, the same with Reece, if he can play 10, 20 minutes, I'm okay with that. And if it means we miss out on Europa League for that reason, because those players couldn't play enough, okay. It's not the end of the world. I would much rather next season have those players fit to start the season with a good preseason and push on from there. I really would. Look, I want Europa League, and I believe the team that's out there right now could get us Europa League. And I think the thing we're finding is, and I'll show you again, that with a bit of consistency, this Chelsea team is starting to find form. Look at it. If you ignore the draw there in orange, that's 4 wins in a row, because we should have had that win against Aston Villa. But arguably, the referee was a little bit more, VAR was a little bit controversial that day. There's a ridiculously annoying loss in there, but we couldn't do much about it because we had absolutely no chance against that Arsenal squad. But don't forget, just before that Arsenal game, we beat Everton. So it's actually 4 really good performances in the last 6. A second half that was fantastic against Aston Villa as well. The only anomaly there is that Arsenal game. Other than that, there's a lot of consistency in this side. We've seen Cucurella be good in terms of inverting. If he doesn't invert, he's been pretty solid at left back. The same with Noni Madueke. He's been good in and out. So I think we've got a really good chance tonight. But we are up against a manager who is one of the hottest prospects in the Premier League. And the reason I say prospect is because for me, he's not quite done enough yet to be considered a top manager, but there is evidence to suggest that he is on the right path. Daniel Knight says, should Chelsea get a new goalkeeper? Sanchez is bang average. Well, look, Sanchez isn't really the number one, but yeah, if Sanchez was to leave in the summer, maybe Kepa as well, then there could be funds there to really go big on a goalkeeper with the name of Oblak or someone like that who's got European pedigree, is happy for a new challenge and can see what's being built here, right? And bring a bit of experience. Why not? Look, I'm not saying Oblak's the answer or he's definitely who we could go and sign, because look, Chelsea have to get Europa League football to try and attempt any big name signings, in my opinion. But you never know, could happen. Thoughts on De Zerbi wanting Cole Palmer already last season? I think De Zerbi was probably trying to get his hands on whoever he could in terms of loan deals and things like that, because he's absolutely shown, and we'll move on to this, that he's able to get the best out of so many players who no one really knows that much about. So let's look at what I think is going to be this Brighton squad this evening as well, because obviously Brighton and Hove Albion have been, look, they've been in and out of form. They've had a lot of injuries. They've still got a lot of injuries. De Zerbi's obviously been a bit of a revelation in the time that he's been there, and people love the style of football that De Zerbi plays. A lot of fans of other teams are probably looking and watching Brighton as a second team almost this season, because they don't really have an effect on anyone. But actually, the way they are playing football is beautiful to watch. And let's look at that, shall we? We've got Verbruggen in goal. He's been playing recently. This team's a little bit more consistent for Brighton, right? Their recent form doesn't suggest anything that great. Couple of draws and a win in their last 5. But we've sort of seen the back 6 here play a little bit more often. The only one there is Julio. Obviously, I think Igor's played a game there. But in the last couple of games, they've had a draw against Newcastle and a win over Aston Villa. 2 teams around where Chelsea are right now. And for me, that's the worrying sign. The fact that this Brighton team have suddenly started to turn up out of nowhere against good teams. Like, they really have. And that's why I think it could be really difficult for us tonight as well. And we'll finish off the rest of what I think the Brighton team's going to be. Gilmour and Gross, they've been in there for a while now. Gilmour brings that clever head in terms of what he can do in midfield. We know that too well as Chelsea fans. Probably never got a fair chance. Pascal Gross, an exceptionally experienced player, set pieces, penalties, and a good eye for goal as well. Look, the front 3 is pretty much non-negotiable for me in Buonanotte, Adingra, and Danny Welbeck. I think that's their best options. But number 10, look, João Pedro's obviously now picked up a bit of a knock, and he might not play tonight. So I'm going with Julio and Enciso in that number 10 role. Now, the thing with Enciso is we know as Chelsea fans what he's capable of. We know what Danny Welbeck is capable of. We know what Buonanotte and Adingra can be capable of. And we know that Pascal Gross is good for a goal as well. So straight away there's quite a few players in that Brighton side that worry me just by looking at that team. However, I think Brighton, looking at Chelsea's squad and with the return of a lot of players back from injury now, we've only got 4 players on our announced injury list. Whether or not that means all the players that have returned are able to get in the squad or get some minutes, I'm not sure. I feel pretty confident, but apparently João Pedro is doubtful for tonight's game. Look, if he plays, then we need to be worried about that, and I'm sure he'll be playing exactly where I said Enciso will be playing, and that role that he's been this season, and he's made a very, very good impression on the Premier League. Let's not forget about that. I've said their player to watch tonight is probably going to be Simon Adingra. He's a really exciting, young, fresh player who is electrically quick. He's dangerous. The young Ivorian is having a really, really good season in the Premier League. And I think this is a player to watch not only tonight against Chelsea, but for the next couple of seasons, because I think his player path his career path could really start to take an upwards turn. I think he's a really exciting player. Shiv saying that, remember the stunner goal Enciso scored against us last season? Yeah, I think, did we have Kepa in goal? And I think Kepa was letting stuff in for fun at that time, but how can we forget that goal? It was an exceptional shot. A really, really good player there. You know, the thing with Brighton is I think you can look every single time and think, well, this is Brighton. This is what they're about. They've got all these players coming through, but you never really know who's going to play. And for me, that's what makes it so hard to predict a Brighton side or predict exactly what Brighton's going to turn up, because they make it extremely, extremely difficult for teams to prepare against them because they're so happy to rotate their side. However, what I will say is, obviously, in recent weeks, they've been a little bit more consistent because they've managed to get a couple of results as well. And I think De Zerbi's starting to stick with that team. They look really good. We'll go back to Chelsea's player to watch as well, because I didn't really touch on that. But I've said that I think Cole Palmer's player to watch tonight. Now, everyone will be going, oh, yeah, of course he is. He's your top goal scorer or whatever. The Cole Palmer I saw against Nottingham Forest wasn't the same Cole Palmer that I've been seeing all season. All of a sudden, I saw Cole Palmer dropping deep. I saw him getting on the ball and kind of starting to dictate play a little bit more than I've seen him do in other games, because his regular space was a little bit more occupied. And I was so impressed by that. A very, very good performance from him in terms of a different side to his game. And that's what I want to see a bit more from. So I'm saying to Chelsea fans tonight, if you're watching, have a look at Cole Palmer and see what you think. Look, the room could be there against Brighton, against Billy Gilmour and Pascal Gross in behind them, for Cole Palmer to pick up that spot that he's been doing so well this season. But if he has to drop a little bit deeper, have a look at how much he's improved that side of his game as well. Because if he adds goals and then he can drop deep and start creating as well as creating in and around the final third, we are laughing, because that pass to Mudryk for me was exceptional. And that's something I haven't seen in Cole Palmer's game too often this season. And to add that to his already amazing repertoire of skills and ability and talent on a football pitch would be exceptional. So let's watch this space, Chelsea fans. Are we seeing Cole Palmer starting to find another area of strength in his game, which would be incredible for us? We all know that. Look, let me know your thoughts in the comments right now. What are your score predictions? Because going into this one, I'm a little bit nervous. I've been nervous for all of Chelsea's recent games because I know how easy it is for us to slip up. Look at Nottingham Forest. We nearly slipped up there. If it wasn't for Reece James tonight, on Saturday that evening, would we have won that game? I really don't know. But I think that's important for us to remember, right? Is Reece James is fit, is on the bench, is an absolute weapon to be bringing off the bench, and could really turn a game on its head in such a short space of time. Shiv says Chelsea potentially win 2-1. I think we're definitely conceding a goal. Well, look, it wouldn't be Chelsea, would it, this season if we didn't concede a goal? Obviously, Cole Palmer doesn't really score away from home, so hopefully a couple of other players can step up to the plate to get us those two. Dan Knight says 3-1 Chelsea. What's your score prediction for the Manchester United game? I presume you mean against Newcastle. I am absolutely praying for a Manchester United rout. Like, in my head, I want a Manchester United 4-0. Whether or not that happens, I don't know. But we need somehow Newcastle's goal difference to be harmed. However, what do I really think is going to happen? I think Newcastle will probably win that 1 or 2-0, to be honest with you, if United carry on in the form that they do, which will be a shame, but it could happen. I'm intrigued to see your thoughts on tonight's games. What do you think around the league? Are we looking at a Newcastle win? Are we looking at a Manchester United win? Are we looking at a Chelsea win? Is it going to be comfortable for us? Let me know your thoughts on that one. We give up 2 goals a game, 3-2 Chelsea. Look, we'd all take that, wouldn't we? We would take another 3-2, because ultimately the most important for Chelsea right now, most important thing is to just go and win these games and put ourselves in a position where European football is guaranteed. I don't know whether that European football is going to be Europa League or Conference League, but obviously we'd all prefer Europa League. But right now, I just want to know we're in Europe. I really do. I'm not sure it's guaranteed yet. It might all be pretty much, but we could still fall. It's not over until it's over. Would you be happy with Conference League next season? Yeah, I would. I wouldn't be over the moon. Don't get too far away from the reality here, but I think Conference League, from where we were at a certain point this season, would be a really good recovery. I think the fact we were mid-table at some point this season and it looked like we couldn't get out of even potentially the bottom half, yeah, I'd take Conference League. Obviously, the fact that we've now got this close to Europa League and teams have been dropping points, it feels like a bit of a shame, doesn't it, to be honest with you? So, yeah, look, we could probably do better. Guys, there's a few of us in here as well. Can we smash the likes? I'm trying to get 20 to 25 likes on this stream. So if you haven't already, make sure to click the thumbs up, give us a like on the video, and subscribe if you're new. We're on the road to 2,500 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. Let me know your thoughts for tonight. Let me know your thoughts for Newcastle. Look, Chelsea need a Manchester United win against Newcastle. Absolutely would do us a massive, massive favour. But we all know how things have been going for Manchester United recently. So do I think that the number of Chelsea players returning tonight get booed, says Shiv? Basically, Casado and Colwell. Well, don't forget Cucurella's going back. Sanchez probably won't be on the bench because of injury. But yeah, look, they could. And to be honest, it wouldn't really bother me. But I think for them, it's just really important to remember just to kind of keep your mindset calm, keep it cool. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to perform, because you're at Chelsea now. You're fighting for different things than what Brighton were. And I think the atmosphere at Forest definitely got to this Chelsea team. And I'm not saying Brighton's going to have the same atmosphere, because it probably won't. But, you know, these players are young. They probably haven't been booed too often in their careers, apart from by Chelsea fans when they're not been good enough this season. They just need to be aware, and Poch needs to remind them that just go out there, make sure you do your jobs, listen to how I'm setting you up, and this is how we're going to win the game, because that's down to Pochettino to know how that's going to happen tonight. Because don't get me wrong, De Zerbi and his Brighton side could definitely outplay us tonight. They really could, and it's going to be important for Chelsea to open up this game a little bit and be concise and be smart and be aware of what you're doing. Because last week against Forest, it was open at times, and we were taking too many touches, and we were allowing them to come and get the ball off of us and start their own counter-attacks. And don't get me wrong, when a game opens up, I think this Chelsea side have found it easier to win the game. However, the way that Nottingham Forest played, look, they made it difficult for us, because every time we lost the ball and they turned it over and they started heading towards our goal, we were on the back foot, and then we started getting forced back a little bit more. And then it started off that we had the ball in their half, and then it was on the halfway line. And then towards the end of half time, we were in our own half, just trying to progress it. And it became more and more difficult. And every time they won the ball, they were a little bit closer to goal. And then obviously, I think it was Conor Gallagher had to foul someone, and it led to a goal. And it's just, look, make sure we're not taking too many touches and we're being aware of what we're doing. I think that's the most important thing, because that's what I saw disappear against Forest, because the game plan obviously that we'd set up in wasn't quite working. And then mentally we started to lose focus on just the really basic and simple things. Some of the passes weren't very good. Some of the touches were not sharp. They were too slow. They were too frequent, too many touches. This is the sort of stuff that we don't want to see going into that game. I think it's really important that we remain professional and we stay alert and we stay sharp, because if we give the ball away to this Brighton side, I'll be worried, because it's hard to get it off them and they can really pop the football about. Next season, I hope we see Enzo Fernandez from the World Cup, says Dan Knight. Look, that would be unreal if we saw the return of Enzo. What was really interesting for me, and we will touch on that very quickly, is Pochettino came out a few weeks ago in a press conference and he said that he hasn't let anyone play injured. No one has played for Chelsea injured. And we were all sort of doubting that as Chelsea fans, because we kind of knew that a couple of players had played injured, and Enzo was specifically one of those players. Well, Enzo Fernandez has come out himself and basically said, I've been playing for 8 months in pain and on injections. Now, unless he wasn't telling Chelsea that, which is incredibly bad, because you need to, especially in the employment that he's in terms of he's a footballer and his performance and his body's absolute health. Like, it needs to be clear on who's choosing him to play, if he's fully fit or not. So if he hid that from Chelsea, that is not a good look, in my opinion. But for me, I think it's Poch probably deflecting. He was probably aware of that, maybe not so much. And maybe that's why there's a massive issue with Chelsea's medical staff. We don't know that, right? But hopefully the operation means the return of an Enzo Fernandez that we all thought we were going to see this season, that we saw a little bit last season in spells, and what we saw from the World Cup and Benfica. We'd all like to see that, wouldn't we? We really would. But don't forget, what you do in the Portuguese league can be very hard to translate into performances in the Premier League. Look at Darwin Núñez. That is a prime example for me. An exceptional looking player in Portugal. He has really struggled in the Premier League to put up the same kind of numbers, because ultimately the pressure is there. The pressure is on for a player like Darwin Núñez to go and perform in the Premier League, because one, because of his price tag, and two, because of where he plays on the pitch. It's kind of the same with Enzo. The price tag is excessive, and where he plays on the pitch is so important to Chelsea being creative and winning a midfield battle. So the pressure's on Enzo as well. So let's hope we can see the return of him eventually next season. But looking ahead to tonight, it's going to be a tough game. I'd be worried about Brighton getting on the ball and moving it way too quick for this Chelsea side at times. I'm confident that if things aren't going great, we can definitely have an impact from players off of the bench. But yeah, what happens tonight obviously remains to be seen. I'm just absolutely concerned that we turn up how we did for the first sort of hour against Nottingham Forest, and that ultimately cost Chelsea, because I think Brighton are a better side than Nottingham Forest. I think they've got some really smart, techie players that could cause Chelsea a little bit of an issue We've seen that before. However, at times this season, we've also seen a Brighton side that we could easily beat, and we have beaten. In the Premier League, it was 3-2. It was a lot closer than we need it to be, but we've played them in the League Cup or FA Cup as well. Gerald says, outside looking in and acting like you know what's going on. Gerald, I'll be honest with you, I don't know what you quite mean from that. We definitely don't act like we know what's going on. We can only guess as Chelsea fans. We can only hope and sort of presume what's going on by what's been told to us from the media. Pochettino definitely said what he said in a press conference, and Enzo Fernandez has definitely said what he said in an interview. We absolutely don't know what's going on between the medical staff, but there's obviously an issue there because Pochettino's complained a couple of times that players not being fit and not being available. But if Pochettino isn't aware that he's played players when they're injured, that might suggest to me that there's a breakdown in communication. Can we laugh at Arsenal bottling the league, says Dan Knight? Well, look, yes, we can. We'll touch on that a little bit because why not? It's relevant. It's in the space at the moment. We're all talking about that. But yeah, look, they have been unlucky, in my opinion, in terms of being as good as they've been since the turn of the new year and it not working out. And then we also have to look at a couple of slip-ups from them, Fulham, Aston Villa, the Man City game they could have won. And yeah, look, I wouldn't call this a bottle, in my opinion, but I do feel like the fact that they didn't win against Aston Villa and a couple of other teams is probably a letdown for them. And the fact that Chelsea and Manchester United have got to domestic cup finals and done well in those competitions makes me feel like maybe Arsenal could have put in a little bit of focus towards them. But I think their real focus was on Europe and the Premier League, and ultimately they've been let down a little bit. Look, tonight's going to be an interesting one. I'll be on here and on Never a Foul to give my thoughts afterwards. Hopefully Chelsea can get a win. Oh my gosh, it'll be disastrous if we don't. And as an absolute bonus, if Chelsea can do their job, please, Manchester United, turn up and do us a favour. Look, that's the preview. A short stream, I know, but a little bit different to what we've been doing as a preview normally. Make sure if you're tuning in after I've been live to drop a like on the video. If you're new, make sure to subscribe because we are on the road to 2,500 subscribers. I'll be live on TikTok in the build-up as normal. If you haven't already followed me, make sure to do so. All my links are in the description down below. Check me out on all the socials and follow us. We're building a bit of a community here, and I'm trying to get the people on TikTok over to YouTube and the people from YouTube over to TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff. So I will see you in the next one and on all the other platforms in a bit.